it is. I want America and the Republic back. I stand with George Washington. I stand with Thomas Jefferson. Who do you stand with? The Royal British called them kooks, too. Yankee Doodle dandies.
And the GCN Radio Network.
All right, this is a short segment, but Dr. Corsi, Ph.D. from Harvard University, political science, expert in banking, military operations, you name it, really a great source. His information has turned out to be accurate with stunning precision many times. He's one of the chief advisors of Sheriff Arpaio, who has said there's probable cause. It's clear that the birth certificate is a forgery. His analysis is right on with ours day one, because that's what it is. And they've had top forensic experts, world-renowned, say this, of course, in the last 6 months or so. We're going to talk about that first. Then we're going to get into the Iran situation, the economy with him, and a lot more with Dr. Jerome Corsi. Doc, just give us a prelude in this short segment, because we're going to go to break here in a minute, on the Iran situation first. Then we'll get back into the other stuff when we start the main segment of the show here. But what's going on with Iran right now?
Well, the Iran situation is about ready to break into a shooting war. I've maintained that we've had a covert war with the intelligence agencies in both Israel and probably the United States.
Well, you don't maintain it. You said it a few years ago, and now it's admitted.
Now it's admitted. Now they're finally openly admitting it, because we've had facilities in Iran blown up. We've had cyber attacks against Iran. Iran has retaliated. They've tried to kill Israeli diplomats in various places around the world. So the war has started. It's a question of when it'll break out into a full-scale shooting war, Alex, and that could be any day. You could wake up any day and that could happen.
I also want to, go back into, what do you think Obama, just give us a prelude, what do you think Obama's going to do as he free falls in the polls and as his advisors, tell him, gee, a new Oklahoma City would sure help, to blame our enemies with? I mean, they're not even veiling this stuff anymore.
Well, I think it's time for Obama to start. He'll start thinking about false flag attacks. He'll start thinking about creating crises in order to scare everybody. I mean, I would expect there to be another economic crash that would occur very quickly. The war with Iran is going to be a very difficult war to contain, and any number of bizarre things can happen. I mean, we've got TSA, talking about stopping people on the highways. I mean, the loss of freedom is just staggering, and I don't see Obama readily giving up power. I've never seen Obama readily giving up power, even if he loses the election. And I think they're going to do everything they can, the New World Order folks behind Obama, Saul Alinsky style far leftists in the United States, do everything they can to retain power, even if it means cheating in elections.
Well, we'll break that down after the break. What about, give us a preview of what you're going to tell us on the economic front. And because you are an expert on that front, why don't you tell folks about your research into that area?
Well, we're just printing money. Worldwide, the European Union and the United States, we're printing money. The Federal Reserve is now, I'm estimating, about $1.5 trillion in credit to the EU. This propping up of Greece is a farce. Greece is going to default. It's going to further default. I'm not even sure Greece will get all of the bailout money this round. And right after Greece is going to come Italy, and then a whole series of other countries in the EU. Holding together the EU is a losing proposition. The United States, the housing market is headed for worse than depression levels. Real unemployment, if you measured it accurately, would be more like 22 or 25%. The number of people on dependency of the federal government, food stamps, unemployment insurance, you name it, is growing every day. We're not going to create any jobs in an economy where government regulations are so tight, government's on our necks, and the New World Order is determined to continue sending jobs to the lowest possible slave-level job market in the world. If China isn't low enough, the New World Order will find somewhere else to send the jobs. And as long as we're permitting to do that, we're on a straight slide down into a continuing global depression. We'll make the 30s look like a picnic.
We'll flesh that out more straight ahead, but first we'll get into the incredible press conference that you were involved in with Sheriff Arpaio, what the next step is there. Undoubtedly, Obama is hiding his providence. He's hiding where he comes from. We'll be right back. Well, he held the highest level security clearance for the State Department, and that's above the CIA. He's got a PhD from Harvard in political science. I'm not going to get into his whole background. Multiple #1 New York Times bestseller. Wrote Unfit for Command, Swift Boat Veterans Speak Out Against John Kerry. Also, many other best-selling books, America for Sale, Fighting the New World Order, Surviving a Globalist Depression, and Preserving USA Sovereignty. And so much of what he talked about years ago has become mainstream information. That, oil, most of it isn't fossil. It's abiotic. The list goes on. And I remember him a few years ago, we were also covering it, talking about the covert war that Western powers have against Iran's nuclear program. People are like, there's not going to be a war. It's never going to happen. There's already a war. But we're going to get into that with Dr. Corsi. We're going to get into the economy. He worked at the highest levels of the financial system. He's predicted what's going to happen on that front. And I want to see where America's going to end. I mean, how he sees the breaks happening here. But first, he was part of the press conference last Thursday with Sheriff Joe Arpaio out in the Phoenix area. Of course, Sheriff Joe announced, 6 months ago or so, he was investigating Obama's birth certificate because, it's a matter there in the state with the legislature saying he's got to prove himself and all the rest of it. And his constituents kept asking him to look into it. And as soon as he did that, he got raided by the feds, claiming, human rights abuses and things. Not visited, raided, basically. I mean, they act so scared. They released the fake birth certificate a week before Dr. Corsi's book came out. Where's the birth certificate? And then they had fake stories put out by their organs, their minions, on record, saying the book had been recalled when it hadn't. So again, when people flee, when people act guilty, that's always the big sign here. Now, Dr. Corsi, break down the investigation with Arpaio, where it goes now, for people that have heard, that's ridiculous, we've seen his birth certificate. We heard that for 3 years before he released the fake one, as you know. But just recap for people and tell us what happened at the press conference and where all this is going.
Well, it's pretty stunning. This is the first time, Alex, a law enforcement group, duly constituted law enforcement, Sheriff Arpaio, Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, has conducted a law enforcement investigation. It's going to be a continuing investigation. The press conference was held to announce that the investigation has determined there's probable cause to believe that Barack Obama's birth certificate, the PDF file released April 27, 2011, is a forgery, and the Selective Service registration card, filed supposedly in 1980 by Barack Obama, is also a forgery. Now, these two conclusions should be startling. This is a law enforcement conclusion that now there's guilty parties out there, criminals involved in forging fundamental identity papers for the President of the United States. And when you get to this point, all the mainstream media is doing, all the buzz in the mainstream media has been that Michael Zullo and the chief investigator, lead investigator, Cold Case Posse, and I dared to release a book. And so now the mainstream media is taken to attack us, saying, you're trying to benefit financially from, a public investigation.
Well, what do they do? I mean, that's all the media does is report on investigations. How do you think you keep the lights on around here?
And Michael Zullo, who is a detective, has done this entirely on a volunteer basis. He hasn't made a penny out of this. And in fact, he owns his own work product.
Yeah, but they do that just to change the subject. That's a classic tactic. I mean, come on.
The whole thing is, rather than look at the accusations that we're making, which are criminal probable cause determinations, which means that Sheriff Arpaio is going to shift now into a criminal investigation with additional powers from his office to the Cold Case Posse. Rather than even address those, the mainstream media searches and says, but these two guys are going to make $1.
Well, you can say what you want about Sheriff Joe, but he has got big brass you-know-whats and is a hard charger, and the system doesn't like him, so he's okay in my book.
Well, and also, he's got tremendous courage fighting all this. Sheriff Arpaio said, I want you to do. We checked and made sure there's no violations of any regulations or rules. I'm free to write a book. It's what I do. It's how I make my living. Mike Zulu's ready to write a book.
They're just changing the subject. Tell folks the name, and they can get it at Amazon right now.
Right. The book is called A Question of Eligibility, and subtitled a law enforcement investigation into the birth certificate and eligibility of Barack Obama, an ebook. It's $9.99. It's available right now on Amazon.com for the Kindle, Barnes & Noble for the Nook, iPad. If you don't have a Kindle or Nook, you can buy the book through the Kindle store and Amazon, or the Nook store and Barnes & Noble, and download onto your PC.
Well, let me ask you this question, because, I mean, this is the big one. Why did they put out such a ridiculous forgery? I mean, look, I was going to wait. You know, it came out that day. We spent all day looking at it. By nighttime, it wasn't, I mean, I did basic stuff. But now you guys have done a lot more than we've done. Top forensic experts, once you tell folks about it, have come out. But just briefly, we went through it. It wasn't just in layers. We were the first to break that. It wasn't just that. It wasn't a typewriter, which each splat of the thing is different. They were using the same fake typewriter font from some type of WordPress system. Please explain it to people. I mean, the C's had the same fake splats. It's fake. It's fake. It's fake.
Exactly. And in fact, it's a bad fake. It's an obvious fake.
So why is it so bad?
Well, you know, it's almost like they were tempting us. You know, it's been suggested that they're going to produce the real document from the vault. You know, this is ridiculous. If this is the birth certificate, this has got to stand up to forensic analysis, and it's got to be proven not to be a fake. If it's a fake, the American people have been lied to, and I don't think there is a pen and ink original that's going to look anything like what was released. We want to see the microfilm. We want to see all of the original records from Hawaii, and now the FOIA requests, the law enforcement requests are going to come out starting on Monday from Sheriff Arpaio's office to the Hawaii Department of Health to show us the original records.
And let's see if Obama tries to block it. Let's not forget, a few months before this happened, Governor Abercrombie, friends with Obama, said, I've gone and looked, it's not there.
Exactly. And the whole idea of saying it's not there, and then suddenly, okay, the book is good, my book, Where's the Birth Certificate, is going to be produced. It's about to come out. It's on Drudge's top headlines. It's become a Amazon #1 bestseller. Donald Trump is pumping the issue. And suddenly the birth certificate that Abercrombie, the governor of Hawaii, could not find is magically produced by the White House.
But let's talk about the stamp. Let's talk about all of it. I mean, this whole thing's a forgery. They call him African-American. That term wasn't in use till decades later. I mean, it's insane.
The stamps, the registrar stamps on the birth certificate are on separate layers. You can pick them up. You can move them around the document. They leave white halos behind. These are supposed to be the authenticating stamps that are imprinted onto the original document, not brought in, imported from external sources, and put onto the document as a layer. It's totally a...
This is like when they Photoshop, when Photoshop was new 15, 16 years ago, and they'd stick your head crudely on a dinosaur head, and it's obvious it's fake. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And the Selective Service card, which the media have ignored, I think is equally an important issue, because the cold case posse investigators went and got the original stamps. The stamp on Barack Obama's is a 1980 postal stamp. They got the same stamp from the same postal station in Hawaii where Obama filed that supposedly filed that Selective Service registration. Every stamp used at that time by the Post Service had the date on the slug on the stamp with 4 digits, 1980. Obama's has only 80, and it's shifted to the right. What the investigators found out was they had gotten there was no, when they forged this, they got a 2008 plug. They cut off the 08. They turned it upside down, inverted it, stuck it back in the plug, stamped it. The only one with the 2 digits.
Stay there. We got to go to break. Explain it on the other side. And let's not forget, he was using a fake Social Security number of someone else in Connecticut. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And his birth certificate was cut out of the Kenyan records, showing it was there.